I never expected to lose my mom at 48. She was my rock, my biggest supporter. When she passed after battling cancer, my world crumbled completely. But what hurt even more was discovering that her will left everything our family home, her savings, and all valuables to my younger brother Nathan. All I received was her 15-year-old SUV with peeling paint and 200,000 miles on the odometer. Before I could even process my grief, Nathan changed the locks and told me I had 3 days to clear out my belongings from the house I grew up in. I was homeless at 34. Before I tell you how I uncovered the truth and reclaimed what was rightfully mine, drop a comment letting me know if you have ever been betrayed by family, and hit that like and subscribe button if you believe justice always finds a way. Growing up in our suburban Chicago home, I was always the responsible son. I helped Mom with yard work, home repairs, and making sure bills were paid on time after Dad passed when I was 16. I put my college plans on hold to work full-time at a local construction company so we could keep our house. Meanwhile, Nathan, 3 years younger, got to attend university with Mom, covering his tuition and expenses. I never resented this arrangement because I loved my mother deeply and wanted her to see at least one of her sons achieve the college dream. Mom always insisted James, you, and Nathan will always share everything equally. Family sticks together no matter what. She would repeat this so often it became our family mantra. I believed her completely. We were a tight-knit family despite our different paths in life. By my early 30s, I had worked my way up to construction project manager while taking night classes to finally earn my business degree. I moved back home to help care for Mom when she was first diagnosed with breast cancer. Nathan, now a financial advisor at a regional firm, visited occasionally but was too busy with clients to help with her daily care. I administered her medications, drove her to chemotherapy sessions, and held her hand through the worst nights. During her final year, Mom seemed to rally briefly. During this period, Nathan suddenly became more present, often arriving with his laptop and papers for Mom to sign. When I asked about these documents, he brushed me off, saying they were just updating her accounts for medical payments and that he was using his financial expertise to help secure her future. Mom seemed grateful for his assistance, and I was simply happy to see them spending time together. When Mom passed, I was devastated beyond words. She died in my arms early one Tuesday morning while Nathan was on a business trip. He returned for the funeral, which he insisted on arranging himself. The service was smaller than I would have chosen, but I was too grief-stricken to argue about the details. 3 days after we laid Mom to rest, Nathan invited me to meet with the family lawyer Harold Winters for the reading of the will. I expected a straightforward division of assets, perhaps with sentimental items, specifically allocated. I could never have prepared myself for what happened next. The last will and testament of Margaret Lynn Turner Harold read, formally adjusting his glasses. To my son, Nathan Turner, I leave my house at 123 Oakwood Drive. All its contents, all financial accounts, investments, and personal property. I sat stunned, waiting for the rest. There had to be more. To my son, James Turner Harold continued, I leave my Ford Explorer vehicle identification number. His voice faded in my ears as shock overtook me. There must be some mistake, I managed to say when Harold finished. Mom always said we would share everything equally. Nathan placed a hand on my shoulder, his face, a mask of sympathy that did not reach his eyes. Mom and I discussed this extensively during her final months. She was disappointed that you never finished college initially, that you never moved out and established your own household. She wanted to ensure her assets were managed responsibly. I turned to Harold, who seemed uncomfortable. Can this be contested? The will is quite clear, he replied, not meeting my eyes. It has been properly witnessed and notarized. Your mother was of sound mind when she signed it 3 months ago. That evening, still reeling from shock, I returned home to find the locks changed. Nathan was waiting in the driveway. I need you to clear out your personal items by Friday, he said matter-of-factly. I will be renovating Mom's house before putting it on the market. Here is a box with your immediate necessities and the SUV keys. Nathan, this is my home too, I protested. I have lived here for years taking care of Mom. Where am I supposed to go? You are 34, James. It is time you found your own place. He handed me the box and a set of keys. The Explorer is parked around the corner. It is legally yours now. I stood in the driveway of my childhood home, holding a cardboard box and keys to a vehicle I had driven for years, as if it were a consolation prize. Through the windows, I could see Nathan already rearranging furniture, erasing traces of my existence in what had been my home just hours before. That night I slept in the back of the SUV, parked in a Walmart lot, surrounded by the few possessions I had managed to grab. Grief mixed with betrayal created a pain so acute I could barely breathe. How could Mom have done this? How could she have left me with nothing after I had sacrificed so much to care for her? And how could Nathan, my own brother, throw me out onto the street without a second thought? Rain pattered against the windows of the Explorer as I curled up in the back, using my jacket as a pillow. Everything I thought I knew about my family had been a lie. I had never felt more alone in my life. The first week of homelessness was a blur of shock and practical problems. I showered at the gym, where I maintained a membership, stored most of my possessions in a small storage unit. I could barely afford and alternated between sleeping in the SUV and crashing on my friend Tony's couch when he offered. I called in sick to work, unable to focus or function normally, while my life had been turned upside down. 2 weeks after being kicked out, I was organizing the few items in the SUV when I discovered something strange. While adjusting the rear seat to make more room for sleeping, I found a hidden compartment beneath the carpet, something I had never noticed, despite driving this vehicle for years. Inside was a waterproof document case. My hands trembled as I opened it, finding a collection of papers, old insurance documents, maintenance records, and a sealed envelope with my name written in my mother's handwriting. I tore it open, my heart racing. "My dearest James," the letter began, "if you are reading this, I fear something has gone wrong. I have hidden this in the Explorer because it is the one thing I know will go directly to you according to my wishes." I read on, learning that my mother had indeed intended to divide her estate equally between Nathan and me. She detailed specific accounts, insurance policies, and investments that should have been split between us. Most shockingly, she revealed that she had suspected Nathan of trying to manipulate her during her illness. "He brings papers when I am medicated and confused," she wrote. "I sign them trusting he is helping, but my instincts tell me to be cautious. I have therefore created this record of my true wishes and have a proper will filed with my longtime attorney, Patricia Lawson. Not Harold Winters, who is Nathan's friend, but Patricia, who has been my trusted advisor for 20 years. The letter included Patricia's contact information and referenced additional evidence my mother had hidden in a safety deposit box, accessible with a key she had sewn into the Explorer's spare tire cover. That night I barely slept, my mind racing with the implications of this discovery. The next morning I called Patricia Lawson's office and scheduled an urgent meeting. She remembered me immediately when I arrived. "James, I was wondering if you would find your way to me," she said, concern evident in her eyes. "I tried reaching out to you after Margaret passed, but my calls went unanswered." "Nathan must have blocked your calls," I realized. "He handled Mom's phone and accounts in her final weeks." Patricia nodded grimly. "I suspected as much. Your mother came to see me 6 months ago, very concerned about Nathan's behavior. She executed a formal will dividing everything equally between you, both with specific provisions for the house to remain in both your names or to be sold, with proceeds divided equally. But Harold Winters read a completely different will," I explained, showing her my mother's letter. Patricia's expression darkened. "Harold Winters is not even licensed to practice estate law in our state. He works primarily on corporate matters for Nathan's firm. What you heard was not a legitimate will reading." Over the next few days, Patricia helped me recover the contents of the safety deposit box. Inside were records of my mother's actual financial holdings, significantly larger than what had been disclosed in Nathan's version of the will. There were also recordings my mother had secretly made of Nathan, pressuring her to sign documents while she was heavily medicated, clearly not in a state to provide informed consent. Armed with this evidence, Patricia filed an emergency petition contesting the fraudulent will. However, Nathan had moved quickly to liquidate accounts and transfer assets, making recovery complicated. The legal process would be lengthy, possibly taking years. "You need to prepare for a long battle," Patricia warned. "Nathan has resources and connections. He will fight this every step of the way." Left with no choice but to rebuild my life, while fighting the legal battle, I threw myself into work. My boss was sympathetic to my situation and offered me additional projects to help increase my income. I moved from Tony's couch to a small studio apartment, barely larger than a closet, but infinitely better than living in the Explorer. Every evening after work, I would gather documentation, organize evidence, and strategize with Patricia. We discovered that Nathan had manipulated not just the will, but had been siphoning money from our mother's accounts during her illness. He had also taken out loans against the house without her knowledge, using the funds for risky investments that had largely failed. 3 years into the legal battle, with the case moving slowly through the courts, I received an unexpected call from our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. "James, I thought you should know Nathan has not been maintaining your mother's house," she said worriedly. "There have been different people coming and going. I think he might be renting it out short term, and they are having wild parties. Your mother would be heartbroken to see it this way." I drove by that evening and was shocked to see the once immaculate yard overgrown windows broken and graffiti on the garage door. This was my childhood home, the place where my mother had lived and died, being desecrated through Nathan's neglect. That night I made a decision. If the legal system was moving too slowly to save my mother's home, I needed to take matters into my own hands. Not through violence or confrontation, but through careful documentation and strategic planning. I purchased several small, inconspicuous security cameras and motion sensors. Using my construction background and knowledge of the house, I devised a plan to install them without detection. When Nathan was away on one of his frequent business trips, I gained access to the house through a cellar window I knew had always had a faulty lock. The interior of the house broke my heart. Beer cans, drug paraphernalia, and garbage littered the rooms. Family photos had been taken down, furniture broken or removed. I quickly installed cameras in the living room, kitchen, and hallways, carefully hiding the wiring and ensuring they would upload footage to a secure cloud server. Then I noticed something on the mantel that made my blood boil. The antique music box that had belonged to our grandmother, the one Mom had specifically promised, would be mine because I had learned to repair its delicate mechanism. Nathan had never cared about it, but now it sat prominently displayed, the one family heirloom he had chosen to keep amid the destruction. I left everything else untouched, not wanting Nathan to suspect I had been there, but I took detailed photos documenting the condition of the house. These would prove valuable for our court case, showing his mismanagement of the property he had fraudulently claimed. As I carefully exited through the cellar window, I felt a strange mix of sadness and determination. The house no longer felt like home, but I was now its silent guardian, watching and waiting for the right moment to reclaim my inheritance and restore my mother's legacy. 4 years after my mother's death, our legal case finally reached its climax. The court had been presented with overwhelming evidence. My mother's authentic will from Patricia Lawson's office, bank records, showing Nathan's unauthorized transfers, medical records, proving Mom was heavily medicated when signing documents. Nathan presented, and most damaging of all, the video footage from my hidden cameras. The cameras had captured far more than I could have anticipated. They recorded Nathan bringing in random strangers for parties that destroyed more of the house. They showed him removing and selling furniture and artwork that had been in our family for generations. Most critically, they recorded multiple conversations where Nathan bragged to friends about how he had played the cancer card to manipulate our mother and cheat me out of my inheritance. The week before our final court date, Nathan must have sensed the case was not going his way. He made a desperate move that I could never have anticipated. He posted a video on social media showing a clearly staged scene of me supposedly breaking into the house and stealing items. The video showed someone in a hoodie, face not visible, taking things from the house, while Nathan narrated, claiming I had become unstable and dangerous since being rightfully disinherited. The video went viral in our community. Friends and coworkers began looking at me differently. Nathan had always been charismatic and persuasive, and people wanted to believe his version of events. He even filed a police report based on his fabricated evidence. What Nathan did not know was that my cameras had captured him creating this fake video, showing him directing a friend about how to move and what to take, carefully staging the scene to maximize sympathy for himself and paint me as the villain. When we presented this evidence in court, along with footage from the same day, showing the actual state of the house far worse than in his staged video, the judge's expression changed from skeptical to outraged. The final nail in Nathan's coffin was footage of him explicitly discussing how to hide assets from the court and admitting he had forged our mother's signature on multiple documents. "Your Honor," Patricia argued, "not only did Nathan Turner present a fraudulent will and steal his brother's rightful inheritance, but he has now attempted to manipulate this court with falsified evidence and defamed his brother's character publicly. We request immediate restoration of all assets, according to Margaret Turner's legitimate will, plus punitive damages for the suffering Mr. James Turner has endured." The judge did not even need to deliberate. She ruled immediately in my favor, ordering Nathan to transfer the house deed to me, return all liquidated assets with interest, and pay substantial damages for his fraudulent actions. Additionally, she referred the case to the district attorney for potential criminal charges related to elder abuse, fraud, and perjury. Nathan sat stunned as the ruling was delivered. When he finally looked at me, I expected to see anger or defiance. Instead, his expression held something I had never seen from him before: fear. The carefully constructed facade of the successful, respectable financial advisor was crumbling, and he was facing not just financial ruin, but possible imprisonment. After the hearing, he approached me outside the courthouse. "James, we need to talk," he said, his voice lacking its usual confidence. "This was all a misunderstanding. We can work something out between us, keep it in the family." I looked at my brother, this person who shared my blood but had shown me no loyalty or love. "There is nothing to discuss, Nathan. The court has spoken. You have 3 days to remove your personal belongings from Mom's house. Everything else stays. You cannot do this to me," he hissed, dropping the conciliatory act. "Where am I supposed to go? My reputation will be ruined when this gets out." The irony of him asking the very same question I had asked 4 years earlier when he made me homeless was not lost on me. But I did not feel the vindictive joy I had imagined I would in this moment. I felt only a profound sadness for what our family had become. "You should have thought about that before you betrayed Mom's trust and tried to destroy me," I replied quietly. "I will be at the house on Saturday at 10 in the morning. You can collect your things then supervised and leave the keys." As I walked away, Patricia caught up with me. "Congratulations, James. Justice was a long time coming, but it finally arrived. Thank you for believing in me and seeing this through," I said, feeling overwhelmed by the reality that I had finally reclaimed my inheritance. "Your mother would be proud," she said, squeezing my arm. "She knew you were the son who truly honored her values." That Saturday, I arrived at the house to find Nathan had already come and gone, taking only a suitcase of clothes and personal items. He left the keys in the mailbox with a note that simply said, "You won. I hope it was worth destroying your only family." I stood in the empty, damaged shell of our family home, holding that note, and felt no triumph. Only the heavy weight of a family bond irreparably broken, and the enormous task of rebuilding that lay ahead of me. The first night in my reclaimed family home was eerily quiet. I slept on a camping mattress in what had once been my bedroom, now stripped of everything familiar. The house smelled of neglect and required extensive repairs. Broken windows, damaged drywall, stained carpets, and plumbing issues were just the beginning. But beneath the damage, the bones of the home remained strong, much like my resolve. The first month was dedicated to cleaning and essential repairs. I took a leave of absence from work to focus on restoring the house, starting with my mother's bedroom. It felt important to honor her space first, to cleanse it of the disrespect it had suffered. As I repaired the crown molding she had always loved, I found myself talking to her, telling her about the legal battle, my years of struggle, and my plans for the future. "I wish you could see that justice was finally served, Mom," I said to the empty room one evening. "I just wish it had not cost me my only brother." News of Nathan's downfall spread quickly through our community and his professional circles. His firm terminated him after learning of the court's findings. Several of his clients filed complaints about questionable financial advice, triggering an investigation by regulatory authorities. Last I heard, he had moved to another state, trying to outrun his tarnished reputation. I sometimes wondered if I should feel satisfaction at his fall from grace, but mostly I felt hollow. The victory had come at a tremendous cost, not just in years of my life, but in the complete destruction of our family. There would be no reconciliation, no future holidays together, no chance to repair what had been broken. Nathan and I were now as estranged as two people who shared blood could possibly be. As the house slowly transformed back into a home, I found myself preserving elements of my mother's taste and style. I restored her garden, replanting her favorite roses, and maintaining the bird feeders she had lovingly tended. Her kitchen remained largely unchanged, though upgraded with new appliances. It was important to me that the house remain hers in spirit even as I made it mine in practice. The financial settlement allowed me to complete my education, finishing my business degree, and adding a certification in sustainable construction management. I established a small scholarship in my mother's name at the local community college, designated for adult students returning to education after caregiving responsibilities, hoping to honor her memory by helping others like myself. 6 months after reclaiming the house, I found our grandmother's music box in a box of items Nathan had damaged. The delicate mechanism was broken, the wood cracked from being roughly handled. I spent weekends carefully restoring it, ordering replacement parts, and refinishing the walnut exterior. When I finally got it working again, the familiar melody brought tears to my eyes. It was the same song my mother used to hum while gardening or cooking, a tangible connection to her that Nathan had nearly destroyed. 1 year after the court victory, Patricia invited me to lunch. "How are you really doing, James?" she asked, studying my face carefully. "The house is almost fully restored," I began. "That is not what I asked," she interrupted gently. "How are you doing?" I considered the question honestly. "I am still processing everything. The betrayal, the years of struggle, the loss of my brother on top of losing Mom. Some days I feel at peace with it all. Other days the anger comes back fresh. That is entirely normal," she assured me. "Healing is not linear, especially from family betrayal. But I see your mother in you, James. Her resilience, her integrity. She would be so proud of how you have handled this impossible situation." Those words meant more to me than the house or any financial settlement ever could. The knowledge that I had honored my mother's true wishes and values had become my greatest consolation. 2 years after reclaiming the house, I had transformed it completely. The damage was repaired, rooms repainted, gardens restored. It was once again a place of warmth and welcome, though now filled with my own chosen family of close friends rather than blood relatives. I hosted regular dinners, created a workspace for my new side business in sustainable construction, consulting, and even set up a workshop in the garage where I restored vintage furniture, a skill I had learned during the renovation process. The experience had changed me profoundly. I was more cautious with trust, yes, but also more appreciative of genuine connections. I valued honesty above all else, and had developed a finely tuned sensor for insincerity. Most importantly, I had learned that justice sometimes requires tremendous patience and strategic thinking, but truth eventually finds its way to the surface. I kept only one of the security cameras active, the one in the living room where my mother's photograph now sat prominently displayed. It was no longer about surveillance, but about connection. When I traveled for work, I could look at the app on my phone and see that familiar space, ensuring all was well in the home she had loved so much and had wanted me to have. The old SUV that had once been my only inheritance still sat in the driveway. I had the means to replace it now, but chose instead to have it fully restored, keeping it as a reminder of the journey and of the hidden gift my mother had placed inside it, the key to reclaiming everything else. Some might have seen it as a painful reminder, but to me, it represented my mother's foresight and her ultimate victory over deception. Life continues to evolve, bringing new challenges and opportunities. The pain has not disappeared completely, but it has transformed into something more complex, a deep appreciation for justice, truth, and the power of perseverance. I still think of Nathan, sometimes wondering if he ever reflects on his choices or feels remorse for what he did. But those thoughts come less frequently now, replaced by gratitude for the present and hope for the future. In the end, what I reclaimed was more than just property and assets. I reclaimed my mother's true legacy, integrity, resilience, and the capacity to rebuild from ashes. The house is now truly mine, not just legally but spiritually, filled with new memories and fresh purpose. And in that transformation lies the most meaningful victory of all. Have you ever experienced a betrayal from someone you thought you could trust completely? How did you handle it, and what did you learn from the experience? Share your story in the comments below and let us know how you would have handled the situation if you were in my shoes. If this story of patience and justice resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more real-life experiences that show the complexity of family relationships. Share this video with someone who might be going through their own family struggle and needs to know that persistence can eventually lead to justice. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that sometimes what seems like the smallest inheritance can contain the greatest gift.